In this video, we are exploring Fort Howard. This was a very interesting place to explore. I liked it a lot. So here's the history of this place. War of 1812, then known as North Point, in 1793, after Sea Captain Robert North, Fort Howard as the beachhead location of the British Expeditionary Marine Force landing of approximately 4,500 as part of the land and sea campaign to capture and burn Baltimore during the War of 1812 on September 12, 1814 in the Battle of Baltimore. To date, the invasion of the largest in the United States history. The coordination with the Royal Navy bombardment of Fort McHenry September 13th and 14th under the commanding of Lieutenant Colonel George Armstead. The British troops were to march up the North Point Peninsula and capture Baltimore from the east, but the British advance was demised when the commander, Major General Robert Ross, 1766 through 1814, was killed by a sharpshooter, Daniel Wells, or Henry G. Commerce. The advance was then temporarily stalled by the American forced resistance by several regiments of the Maryland militia under the commanding of Brig General John Slicker, 1758 to 1825, in the Battle of North Point on September 12th, southeast of the city. After the several-hour battle that afternoon, the American left wing finally collapsed and retreated in good order to the far more substantial Drug Inn. Fortifications with about 100 cannons and 20,000 volunteers and drafted citizens and militia elected under the supervision of Major General Samuel Smith, 1752 to 1839, on the heights east of the city. Longest-Schlager Hill, later Hampstead Hill, when the British, now under command Colonel Arthur Brooke, 1772 to 1834, perceived the strength of the substantial American defense and falling in to make any successful flank attacks await the reinforcements of the British fleet to come upriver to bomb and shell the fort and force a passengers past the sunken ships obstacles in the harbor channel. After 2 days and a rainstorm-filled night, disheartened by the British troops, retreated back to North Point, reboarded their ships, leaving Baltimore not to return. Late 19th and early 20th century. The site was taken over in 1896 by the U.S. Department of War for construction of the coastal artillery fortress known as the Endicott or Third Period in the pre-Spanish-American War era before 1898. In 1902, reinforced concrete coast batteries were erected at Fort Howard. The batteries were named in honor of the famous Marylanders of the War of 1812. Fort Howard, called the Bulldog at Baltimore's Gate, was managed by 4 companies of the Coastal Artillery Group, the 21st, 40th, 103rd, and 140th. The guns at the fort included 12-inch disappearing rifles, 12-inch mortars, 6-inch rifles, and 4.7 and 3 inches rapid-fire weapons. Each battery contained from the 2 to 4 guns. The gunners who maintained these batteries were among the best coast artillerymen in the world. In 1908, they were credited with setting a world's record by hitting a moving target over 5,000 yards away. 9 out of 10 times the shells that missed were defective. Wow, that's amazing. In 1917, the troops at Fort Howard were doubled, and its men were put on a wartime basis due to the concerns of the impending war. To keep in shape, the gunmen drilled by firing on steamers, which were the only craft sighted in their waters. The artillerymen who lived on the bases resided in what was like an ordinary small city. Along the main driveway were active offices, cottages, one of which belonged to the commander of the fort. The bachelor's quarters was one of the fort bunkers housing single enlightened men, while married men were permitted to live outside of the gate. Later uses. It was first headquarters of the newly formed 3rd Corps area in 1920 and became the headquarters of the Coastal Defense of Baltimore in 1922. The nurses' home was the headquarters of General Douglas MacArthur from 1952 to 1928. The installation was turned over to the U.S. Veterans Administration, now the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, in 1940, which still owns the majority of the property, and which established the Fort Howard Veterans Hospital on the site. During World War II, it was used as a holding center for German prisoners of the war and Japanese and German enemies, allies, non-citizen residents of the U.S. who were arrested and but were not most.
I've seen a lot of change, been through a lot of pain. Some things are not the same as they were a year ago, but all will be okay. I move on each and every day. The past is where it stays, way back a year ago. I've changed for the better this time. I thought I would never be fine. I strive just to say I'm alright, and for the first time in a long time I'm alright. I've seen a lot of change, been through a lot of pain. Some things are not the same as they were a year ago, but all will be okay. I move on each and every day. The past is where it stays, way back a year ago. I'm not falling, I'll push all my chips and call all in. I'll bet on myself, you keep stalling. I hear destiny and it's calling. I'll keep my head up high through the downs and lows, and where I'll go in life, still nobody knows. But I'ma choose what's right and take what comes and goes, and ain't no one in life holding me back no more. I've seen a lot of change, been through a lot of pain. Some things are not the same as they were a year ago, but all will be okay. I move on each and every day. The past is where it stays, way back a year ago.